Have I ever told you the story of the final days of Rome, of the men and women who came to inherit her, of the spoils she left, and the history that was made? See it for yourself firsthand, through the eyes of those who lived it, as the Persians or Romans, as the Vandals or Goths, or as the purple who came to inherit her for 1,000 years after. Experience it all here in the Fallen Eagle. The Fallen Eagle is a mod that I have long thought about making a video for, but I asked myself, how the hell do you talk about a mod that's probably the best mod for CK3? And I think the best way is for me to just show you the things that I love about it. So first of all, we're not even in the game yet. We're just in the, basically select the character screen, you know how it goes. So we have Julian the Apostate, famous Roman. He wanted to convert back to Hellenism from Christianity, pretty famous for that. There's so many historical characters and figures. I shouldn't say characters. There's so many historical figures over the course of what is essentially 200 years of history that you get to play as. Like, you have Justinian, he was recently added. You have Belisarius, he was recently added in the, I think, the most recent update. You have King Athelric. There's so many figures. Like, let's just jump into a random start date here. I'll choose right after the fall, relatively speaking. So I'll play as any ruler in 476, and we'll just jump in there, and then I will show you what I'm talking about. So this is a mod that is incredibly in-depth with what it's trying to do. So we're jumping in here. First of all, it also has its own custom map table, which I just want to show you because I love this map table. I think it's probably my favorite one I've seen, besides maybe the Lord of the Rings teams. Y'all's are both really, really good. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to go to Britannia, first of all. So this is really interesting because it has some awesome figures in here. Like, for example, this guy, Ambrosius. There is historical record that this might be the person that King Arthur is based on, because there's records of him beating back basically a Saxon invasion into what is now modern Western Britain. So essentially he was a Roman, like an ex-Roman citizen who was also a Briton. It's very cool. Like, this is like post, obviously, Rome, Britain, and he's a historical figure who did exist and is potentially the proto-Arthur, which is a cool character that you could consider playing as, or you could consider playing as one of the Saxons, the Merovingians, I can never remember how to say it, but there's, I believe, 4 of them, but 3 of them are right here. So they historically invaded this area where the Soissons are, which was, I believe, one of the last holdouts of the Western Roman Empire, which is a really fun playthrough. I've actually done this one myself as well. You can try and hold out against their invasion. It is pretty insane, and I think you only get 8 years before they just start coming for you. But this game does a really great job with these historical invasions where, like, for example, if you were to play as Italy, not in this timeline, but if you play during the years of Justinian, for example, Belisarius historically did come into Africa, invade, and then came up the Italian peninsula, I think over the course of, what, like 2-3 years maybe, and pretty much reconquered Italy for the Eastern Roman Empire. I don't think the whole of it, I think it was just up to Rome, but still, that's incredibly impressive, and it's something that's really cool that you can live through, but you don't have to even keep it Eurocentric. Like, you can play as the Persians of the Sassanid Empire, which is huge. I mean, that's like a really, just like a big area to play in, but it's not even just the potential of where you can play, it's the attention to detail. So we're in Imperator Zenon. I'm actually not familiar with this because I'm not as familiar with Byzantine history as I am, like, late antiquity or like late Roman history. But as you can see, you start off with the Romano-Iranian Wars, because obviously that's who they're fighting, and then you also get the fall of Rome. The Western Roman Empire is no more, yet this does not mean Roman institutions, infrastructure, ideas, and cultures are gone. This is basically like the struggle to kind of claim Rome in this post-Roman world. You have the Vandals here. This guy was a big reason that the Western Roman Empire fell, which is the reason why I put him at the beginning of the video. He's a bit old now because that happened a little while ago. I believe the Western Roman Empire fell like maybe 20 years ago, maybe at this point. Maybe it was a little bit more recently than that, but either way. So for example, some things I want to show you. They have trade in this. It's kind of a passive thing, but the fact that it exists at all is already better than it not being in there at all. You know what I mean? Like, so you have the option to trade with people by just, I think, by virtue of like where your territories are. So if they have a trade port and you have a trade port, it sort of opens up more avenues for you to make money. You get the potential to create legions, which is really, really cool. You also get an Imperial Senate, which I will show you right now. This is if you're playing as the Byzantines, but you get an imperial senate with different administrative, military, and legislative powers, and you also get factions within it. This kind of reminds me of how Victoria does their sort of different groups and how you can sort of appease them, or if you don't, they can rebel against you, which of course is what happened. There's like Scythians up here. There's so much just even within this, like with even the context of Rome, which obviously there would be. I'm very excited to see what this mod does once we get the new Byzantine update, the Roads to Power, because I feel like they're going to take those features and they're just going to elevate this even more. Obviously, we have a bunch of other stuff. We have Centurion helmets. We got all this court artifacts. There's a custom courtroom for Byzantium, as there would be. We got a little obelisk, which we'll set up here. As you can see, it has its own model. We have an old Legion Scotum, which, as you can see, there's a shield, which is what a Scotum is. It's crazy, right? Like, this is so impressive, and it's the attention to detail of not even just the big things, but the little things. Like, for example, if I jump over here to the Picts, for example, and say I wanted to go to war against these guys, I'm just going to go to war against them, right? I'm saying I'm gonna claim his territory. I'm claiming his territory. I'm gonna raise my troops, and I want you to notice that if they put on this war paint. It's very cool. The helmet does take away the hair, but if you look at the character here, the attention to detail, they've added this Celtic war paint to the various Celtic characters. As you know, like you have the Picts up here, you have the Gaelic tribes over here, you would have some Celts over here as well, not as many. I actually don't know if they would even be here anymore. No, okay, so you do have some Gaelics left. I think most of them were gone at this point. I mean, the Romans had kind of pushed them out of Wales and pushed them all the way up here, but most of Ireland remained Celtic, and then you have obviously like the Pictish Celts, and then the Scoti maybe are around here somewhere. I don't know if they're actually around at this time period. I believe they would be technically, but either way, so you have stuff like that. And then let me just hop out into another star date and we'll talk a little bit more. So I think a big one for me is this recent edition. This was added in the most recent update. You get the option to play as like the Ostrogoths, and you get the option to play as Justinian of the Eastern Roman Empire. Obviously, this dude is a big deal. He's probably one of the most famous Byzantine emperors to most people, especially in like early medieval history. You have his wife Theodora, who is incredibly important. You have the Merovingian kingdoms now firmly establishing themselves, who would later give way to the Karlings, of course. There's a little bit of the Soissons, but are also Merovingians. You have the Ostrogoths, the Theotings, who are down here in Iberia. You have the Vandal kingdoms, which are still around at this point, which is really interesting. If you come up here to, you have Pictland, you still have the Pictish peoples, but you also have the Gaelics, which this is historical. So basically what happened is these Gaelics, these Scoti, ended up sort of assimilating with the two, and that's where Scotland gets its name. It isn't from the Pharaoh lady. I know that would be cool, but it's not. And it's also cool just to be able to play as like historical Slavic cultures as well. Like, this isn't something that you would normally get to be in Crusader Kings. Like, obviously you can be Slavs, but you're not playing as like the earliest iterations of them, which I think is really cool. It's such a fun period, and I mean, you can even play as just Belisarius, and he actually has, there he is. Let me switch to Belisarius. So if you, for example, I'm just gonna let the game run for a second, and you get sort of like his own storyline that he gets to go on, where you get called and you're like, hey, I need you to go on this war to go fight the Vandals, and then you'll beat the Vandals. So I fast forwarded a little bit. So I've just received notice from the Emperor commanding me to lead an expedition to retake North Africa from the perfidious Vandals. While a great honor, it also comes with a heavy responsibility. The war will commence immediately. So as you can see, I am now immediately at war with the Vandals, and I get basically put in charge of, if I'm not mistaken, you get like the Roman vanguard. Yeah, you get your own troops. You lose your capital, but then you essentially get like this beachhead right here, and then you start the war. I feel like in the future, once we figure out how landless works, obviously I would put myself in charge, and he's got this gorgeous, gorgeous armor here. But I feel like once we figure out how landless works, he might end up just being able to not have to do this weird like jump around thing. Like, you'll be able to just like sail in on a ship and just actually attack the beach, which would be really cool. But I mean, this is a cool way to work around it. And like I said, once you take this and the old Carthage, which is right here, I'm sorry, I'm zooming in and out a lot, but yeah, I mean, there's even custom assets obviously for Carthage. Or if, for example, I'm just gushing. Okay, I'm gushing. I'm sorry, I'm so excited. I've wanted to talk about this mod for so long. You can come up here and you can see Hadrian's Wall, which should be right here. As you can see, it's a little decrepit. It's a little fallen apart. There's a lot of custom assets in general in most of the areas. I'll show you Rome here in a second. I'm just going to get rid of these because they're just going to keep going off. We can come down here to Rome. As you can see, it looks absolutely ridiculous. I mean, look at that. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful model. Let's come over here to Constantinople, or Istanbul, as it would be now. But as you can see, very lovely, really, really beautiful city. It's incredible. Now, I actually don't know if they have one here for the Sassanids. And I would be really curious to see if they do. And they do. Oh, very lovely. Look at that. The Grand Palace. Oh my goodness gracious. That's scrumptious. Actually, you know what? I've never really checked out the Persians' features, so I'm kind of curious. Oh, we get the great houses. Oh, wow. See, I'm learning things every day. Like, every time I play this mod, I come back to it and I'm blown away by the things that are in it and just like the potential of it. Now, I feel like I'm significantly stronger than Justinian, which is kind of interesting. That might be the Treaty of Eternal Peace is active. Oh, yep. So that is a phase, I assume. So do we have, am I in a diplomacy? That's interesting. Okay. Wow. And then obviously you have to deal with, like, not right now because I think this is already passed, but like the Hunnic invasions also happened up in this region too. I don't think Attila or anything is in this mod, but there are other Huns, of course, besides Attila. But it's just, this is such a well put together mod that lets you play. I mean, you can even play as like Old Norse if you like. This would be really Old Norse. This is about what, 300 years before the Vikings even came to England. So they would still be doing similar things, but obviously the Saxons, the Picts, the Angles, they take a little precedence over like down here in England and then modern day, Europe. England is Europe, but you know what I'm talking about. It's incredible. It's an incredible mod. I cannot recommend it enough. And especially, and I think something I wanted to show you here back at the main screen. So if you're not very familiar with history, which can be a sort of a hard sell for people who don't, if you don't know what's going on, like you're like, well, why would I pick one of these characters? Well, the beautiful thing here is that you can just click on somebody and they'll give you these really wonderful descriptions that summarize the I was going to say lore. It is pretty much the lore. It summarizes the history enough for you so that you could be like, all right, who is Alaric? You should know who Alaric is if you like history at all, but he actually ended up sacking Rome in 410 with the Goths. So this is somebody who's really important. You have Stilicho right here, who's also pretty important. You have the Franks. This guy is the ancestor to the Merovingians. Or Merovingians. Someone's going to get mad at me for my pronunciation. I know it. I'm sorry. You have this Goth dude here. He is one of the Merovingians who actually invaded this area and took it over. This is a difficult start. As you can see, there's like various different ones. There's Theodoric the Great. There's who I used for the beginning for my Goth character, although there's obviously different people that you can choose. You have the arrival of the Huns. It's just, it's really nice that a mod, especially a historical one, takes the time to describe who these people are, so that if you wanted to come in here and play, you could. Like, for example, this guy of House Serdesine. This is technically the ancestors, I believe, to House Wessex. I'm pretty sure these are the ancestors to Alfred the Great, because I think one of his like heirs created the Kingdom of Wessex back in the day, and then one of his heirs ended up obviously being Alfred the Great. So really, really, really cool in that regard. You obviously also have this cool area over here. There's just so much, right? There's so much that you can do in this mod. You don't have to just play as Rome. You don't have to be like, I don't really, you can be like, I don't really care about Rome. I'm going to go play as one of these guys. I'm going to play as this dude because it's a difficult start and I want to challenge myself. Or you know what? Maybe I do want to play as Emperor Justinian. Or maybe I want to play as, maybe I want to go to 395 and I want to try and prevent the split of the Western Roman Empire. Obviously very difficult. Don't know how you would manage this. I don't know how you would tell yourself, be like, all right, yeah, I'm going to survive as Honorius. And not lose total control of my entire kingdom, which you very likely would. Obviously, you have a bunch of money, but the Hunnic Empire, they're coming, right? Like they are coming for you. I'm actually curious to see what the title history of this would show. So we have this guy, Kogan Balambar. So he founded this Hunnic Empire, which is honestly a threat to both them and like Rome. I think what happened is the Huns sort of assisted in attacking this area. And we haven't even talked about decisions. We can abandon Britannia. We can move the capital to Ravenna. Look at this. Restore the Praetorian Guard. There is a lot of options for you. If you are the kind of person who likes to role play, even if it's in a historical context, that is in this mod for you. And I could not gush enough about this mod. I love the Fallen Eagle. It is probably the one I play the most outside of like actually recording videos. Like I actually just enjoy playing the Fallen Eagle. It's a good mod. And I really have wanted to make a little video. Nothing crazy, nothing like super elaborate. It's just me being like, I'm reminding you, I'm telling you, go play this game, go play this mod. It is modders like this that are keeping CK3 alive, and I love it so much. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please go download the mod. It's on Steam. It's on the workshop. Just do yourself the favor, play it immediately.